My name is Marion, and I am 62 years old. Today should have been one of the proudest moments of my life. My daughter Jennifer was graduating from college. Years of sacrifice as a single mother had paid off. I brought a beautiful bouquet of roses to celebrate her achievement. But when she received her diploma and saw me approaching her, words shattered my heart, right there in front of everyone. I placed the flowers at her feet and walked away. But I swore this betrayal wouldn't be the end of our story. If you're watching this, please like and subscribe and let me know where you're watching from before I tell you how I refused to let my daughter's cruel words be the final chapter. I never expected motherhood would come to me at 40. My life until then had been focused on climbing the corporate ladder at a marketing firm in Chicago. I had married Thomas when I was 35, both of us agreeing that our careers would come first. But something changed in me as I approached 40. A longing for a child became overwhelming, and surprisingly, Thomas agreed. Jennifer came into our world on a snowy December morning. The moment I held her tiny body against mine, I felt a love so profound it changed me forever. Her perfect little fingers, her bright eyes taking in the world for the first time. I promised her everything that day. Everything. Thomas seemed happy at first, but the reality of parenthood hit him hard. The sleepless nights, the constant demands, the way our relationship necessarily shifted to accommodate this new person. By the time Jennifer turned 3, the strain had become too much. I came home one evening to find him packing his bags. "I never really wanted this, Marion," he said, not meeting my eyes. "I thought I could do it for you, but I can't. This isn't the life I pictured." The divorce was quick but painful. Thomas agreed to joint custody on paper, but his visits became increasingly sporadic. Once a week became once a month, then only on special occasions. By the time Jennifer was starting kindergarten, he had moved to Seattle for a new job and a new relationship. His child support checks came regularly at least, but they couldn't make up for his absence. I threw myself into being both mother and father to Jennifer. My career took a backseat as I rearranged my schedule to be present for school drop-offs, pickups, doctor appointments, and dance recitals. I transferred to a less demanding position that allowed me more flexibility, even though it meant a significant pay cut. Jennifer was a bright, curious child who soaked up knowledge like a sponge. By first grade, she was reading at a third grade level. Her teachers constantly praised her analytical mind and hunger for learning. Science became her passion early on, her little bedroom transforming into a miniature laboratory with rock collections, bug specimens, and a microscope I had saved for months to buy her for Christmas. "Mom, look," she would exclaim, pulling me by the hand to see her latest discovery. "The water from our tap has tiny organisms in it. You can see them moving." Our weekends developed sweet traditions. Saturday mornings were for pancakes and planning adventures. The Field Museum became our second home, Jennifer pressing her face against the glass displays of dinosaur bones and ancient artifacts, asking questions as faster than I could answer them. Sunday afternoons were for baking, the kitchen becoming a mess of flour and laughter as we experimented with recipes. My mother, Eleanor, lived just across town and became our steady support system. A retired teacher, she delighted in helping with Jennifer's homework and sharing her own love of books. When I needed to work late, Eleanor would step in, their special grandmother-granddaughter bond growing with shared secrets and inside jokes. "She has your spirit, Marion," my mother would say. That same determination. "But she's got something else too, a brilliant mind. That girl is going places." I believed it. I believed in Jennifer with every fiber of my being. There was nothing I wouldn't do to help her reach her potential. The first subtle shift in our relationship came around Jennifer's 10th birthday. She had always been curious about Thomas, but her questions became more pointed, more frequent. Where was he exactly? Why didn't he visit? Did he have other children? Was it something about her that made him leave, no sweetheart? I assured her, holding her close. "Your father leaving had nothing to do with you. Sometimes adults make choices based on their own issues, not because of anything anyone else did." But I could see the doubt in her eyes. The questions children ask themselves when a parent abandons them are cruel and unfair. Was I not enough? Was I not worthy of love? I called Thomas that night after Jennifer had gone to bed. "She needs you," I said, trying to keep the accusation out of my voice. Even just a phone call would mean so much. He promised to call that weekend. Jennifer sat by the phone all Saturday, jumping at every ring. By Sunday evening, her shoulders had slumped in defeat. The call never came. Thomas texted me late Sunday night with some excuse about work emergencies. I didn't tell Jennifer. I couldn't bear to add another disappointment. That was the weekend something shifted in her eyes when she looked at me, as if somehow I was responsible for her father's absence, as if I had failed her by not being enough for both of us. Middle school brought changes I wasn't prepared for. Jennifer shot up in height suddenly, all long limbs and angular features. Her childhood softness gave way to a new sharpness both physically and emotionally. She began pulling away as I knew adolescents do, but there was an edge to her distance that worried me. "I just need some space, Mom," became her common refrain when I asked about her day or tried to maintain our weekend traditions. I'm not a little kid anymore. Her academic excellence never wavered. Her teachers raved about her work, especially in science and mathematics. Jennifer has a natural aptitude we rarely see, her science teacher told me during a parent conference. She thinks like a scientist, already asking questions and designing experiments to find answers. I beamed with pride, of course. But when I tried to celebrate these achievements with her, she seemed almost annoyed by my enthusiasm. It was during 7th grade that Jennifer met Sophia Turner. The Turners lived in Lake Forest in a house that could have fit 3 of our modest Oak Park bungalow, Mr. Patsaratsa. Turner was a neurosurgeon. Mrs. Turner, a corporate attorney. They had a vacation home in Michigan, took ski trips to Aspen, and spent summers touring Europe. Sophia and Jennifer bonded immediately over their shared love of science. Before long, Jennifer was spending most weekends at the Turners' sprawling home, returning with stories of their indoor pool home theater and Mrs. Turner's gourmet cooking. "Sophia's mom made us homemade pasta from scratch," Jennifer informed me one Sunday evening as she unpacked her overnight bag. "She learned how in Italy, and her dad helped us build a model rocket in their workshop." "That sounds wonderful," I said, ignoring the sting. "Maybe next weekend Sophia could stay here. We could try that new cookie recipe I found." Jennifer didn't look up as she folded her clothes. "Sophia doesn't really like baking. And anyway, her parents are taking us to the Adler Planetarium next weekend. There's a special exhibit on black holes." I swallowed hard and nodded. That sounds like fun. I was working 60-hour weeks by then, taking on freelance marketing projects on weekends to save for Jennifer's college fund. My boss had noticed my dedication and offered me a promotion that would mean more money, but also more responsibility. I accepted immediately, thinking of the opportunities the extra income would provide for Jennifer. The science fair that spring became Jennifer's obsession. She designed an experiment comparing the efficiency of different water filtration methods, spending hours at the Turner's house using Mr. Turner's laboratory equipment to test her hypotheses. I offered to help, but she dismissed my suggestions. "No offense, Mom, but you don't really understand the scientific method. Mr. Turner is helping me with the statistical analysis." The night of the science fair, I arrived straight from work, still in my office clothes, a bouquet of yellow roses in hand. Jennifer had won first place, her display surrounded by impressed judges and parents. I watched from a distance as she explained her findings confidently, Mr. and Mrs. Turner standing proudly beside her. When I finally approached to congratulate her, her smile dimmed slightly. "You made it," she said, sounding surprised. "Of course I did. I wouldn't miss this for anything." "I'm so proud of you, Jennifer." She accepted the flowers with a distracted thanks before turning back to the judge's questions. I stood awkwardly to the side, feeling like an intruder at my own daughter's triumph. At the awards ceremony, when Jennifer's name was called for first place, she hugged the Turners first. In her brief thank you speech, she expressed gratitude to her mentors, Mr. and Mrs. Turner, for their guidance. She didn't mention me at all. The drive home was quiet. When I finally broke the silence to tell her again how proud I was, she stared out the window and asked, "Do you think Dad would have been proud too if he had been there?" The question knocked the wind out of me. "Yes," I managed to say, he would have been incredibly proud." "I want to try contacting him again," she said firmly. "I want to know my father." Despite my reservations, I agreed to help. I still had Thomas' email address, though we rarely communicated except about logistics or finances. I helped Jennifer craft a thoughtful message telling him about her science fair win and expressing her desire to reconnect. To my surprise, he responded within days, seeming genuinely interested in getting to know his daughter. They exchanged emails for a few weeks, and eventually Thomas suggested a visit. He was coming to Chicago for a business conference and proposed meeting Jennifer for lunch. She was ecstatic, planning what to wear, what to tell him, questions to ask. I helped her prepare, tamping down my own anxiety about the meeting. The day arrived and I drove Jennifer to the restaurant downtown where they had agreed to meet. "Do you want me to come in with you?" I asked as we parked. "No," she said quickly. "I want to talk to him alone first. Maybe you can join us for dessert." I agreed and watched her walk into the restaurant, back straight, chin up, trying to look more confident than her 13 years. 2 hours later, she returned to the car, eyes red and swollen from crying. Thomas hadn't shown up. She had waited alone at the table, making excuses to the server, checking her phone repeatedly. Finally, a text came through. "Something came up. Can't make it today. Rain check." Jennifer was devastated, and somehow in her young mind it became my fault. "You probably said something to make him change his mind," she accused on the silent car ride home. "You never wanted me to have a relationship with him." "Jennifer, that's not true," I protested. "I would never do that to you." But she had already constructed a narrative in which I was the villain, the reason her father stayed away. No matter how illogical it had taken root in her mind, it was easier perhaps than facing the painful truth her father had chosen, once again, not to be there for her. By the time Jennifer entered high school, she had transformed into someone I barely recognized. Gone was my open, enthusiastic little girl. In her place was a guarded, often cold young woman who seemed to resent my very presence. Her academic excellence continued unabated. She took all honors classes and joined the school's prestigious science Olympiad team. But I learned about most of her accomplishments secondhand from school newsletters or other parents. Jennifer became expert at forgetting to tell me about important events until it was too late for me to attend. "Oh, the debate competition was today. I must have forgotten to mention it," she would say with feigned innocence when I discovered I had missed yet another milestone. Her circle of friends narrowed to an exclusive group of high achievers, all from wealthy, intact families. Sophia remained her closest friend, and Jennifer spent more and more time at the Turner's house, often staying there for entire weekends. One evening, while Jennifer was at a study group, I was doing laundry and accidentally knocked over her laptop. When I opened it to make sure it wasn't damaged, her social media page was open. I know I shouldn't have looked, but something compelled me to scroll through her recent posts. My heart sank as I saw dozens of photos of Jennifer with the Turners. "Family vacation in Martha's Vineyard," read the caption under a picture of Jennifer, Sophia, and the Turners on a sailboat. Another showed them at a holiday gathering, so grateful for the best Christmas ever with my favorite people. There were no pictures of me, no mentions of our home or our life together. It was as if she had erased me and replaced me with this picture-perfect family. When I confronted her about it, trying to keep my hurt from showing, her response cut deep. "Can you blame me?" she said coolly. "Look at this place." She gestured around our small living room with its secondhand furniture and modest decor. "Do you know how embarrassing it is to bring friends here to tell people my mom is a marketing manager at some company nobody has heard of?" The Turners have a real home. They go places and do things. They can give me opportunities you never could. I stood there, stunned by the cruelty from my 16-year-old daughter. "Jennifer, I have given you everything I possibly could. I've worked extra jobs to provide for you, to save for your college, to give you every opportunity within my power." She rolled her eyes. "And you're going to make me feel guilty about that now? Isn't that what parents are supposed to do?" The years of working overtime and taking on extra freelance projects had begun to affect my health. I developed chronic migraines and insomnia, my doctor warning me about the effects of prolonged stress. But I couldn't slow down, not with college costs looming on the horizon, and Jennifer's growing disdain for anything less than what the Turners could provide. Then my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Eleanor had been my rock, my support system, my voice of reason through the increasingly difficult years with Jennifer. Now she needed me, and I split my time between work, caring for my mother, and trying to maintain some semblance of a relationship with my daughter. Jennifer visited her grandmother in the hospital exactly twice during the 6 months of Eleanor's illness. "Hospitals depress me," she explained when I begged her to come more often. "And anyway, I have SAT prep classes and college applications to work on." When my mother passed away, Jennifer attended the funeral with a distant expression, accepting condolences from family friends with polite detachment. She returned to the Turner's house immediately after the service, claiming she had an important study group that couldn't be rescheduled. I fell into a deep depression after my mother's death. The loss of her wisdom and unwavering support, combined with Jennifer's increasing estrangement, left me feeling more alone than I had ever been. I took a week off work to sort through my mother's belongings, finding small treasures like handwritten recipe cards and old photographs that broke my heart anew. Jennifer barely noticed my grief. She was entirely focused on her college applications, particularly to Stanford, her dream school with one of the top biochemistry programs in the country. Despite everything, I threw myself into helping her, editing essays, gathering financial documents, and researching scholarship opportunities. When the thick acceptance packet arrived from Stanford, it was one of the few times in recent years that Jennifer showed genuine happiness in my presence. For a brief moment, as we celebrated with her favorite takeout dinner, I caught a glimpse of my little girl again, excitement shining in her eyes as she talked about the research opportunities and distinguished professors. "I'm so proud of you, Jennifer," I told her, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "You worked so hard for this." She allowed the touch for a moment before pulling away. "Thanks," she said. Then after a pause, "It's going to be expensive, you know." "I know," I assured her. "But, well, figure it out. Your grandmother left some money for your education, and I've been saving since you were born. Well, make it work." What I didn't tell her was that even with my mother's modest inheritance and my college fund, we were far short of what 4 years at Stanford would cost. But in that moment, seeing a flicker of our old connection, I would have promised her the moon. The reality of sending Jennifer to a prestigious university across the country hit hard when we reviewed the financial aid package. Even with a partial scholarship, we were looking at over $30,000 per year that we needed to cover. "Maybe you should consider Northwestern," I suggested gently. "Their program is excellent too, and the financial aid package is much better. Plus, you'd be closer to home." Jennifer looked at me as if I had suggested she attend community college. "Stanford is the top program in the country, Mom. This is my future we're talking about. If you can't afford it, I can take out loans. It'll make it work." I promised, not wanting to be another disappointment in her life. I took out a second mortgage on our house, applied for parent loans, and liquidated my modest retirement savings. My mother had left me about $50,000, which I put entirely toward Jennifer's education. I picked up additional freelance work, often working until midnight after my regular job. The day we packed Jennifer's belongings into the car for the drive to the airport was bittersweet. For a brief moment, as we sorted through childhood mementos deciding what to take, I saw flashes of connection between us. She laughed at the sight of her old teddy bear and actually allowed me to pack it in her suitcase for emergencies. At the airport, I fought back tears as we said goodbye at the security checkpoint. "Call me when you land," I said, hugging her stiffly resistant body. "And anytime you need anything." "It'll be fine, Mom," she said, already pulling away. "Don't worry so much." "I love you," I called as she walked away. She raised a hand in acknowledgement, but didn't turn around. The first semester, Jennifer called sporadically, usually when she needed something. Money for books I hadn't budgeted for. A winter coat better suited to Northern California weather. Registration fees for special programs. I sent everything she asked for without question. I sent care packages monthly, homemade cookies, favorite snacks, small gifts I thought might brighten her dorm room. I included handwritten notes telling her how proud I was, how much I missed her. The packages were never acknowledged. I had to check the delivery confirmations to know they had arrived. When Thanksgiving approached, I was already planning her favorite dishes, excited to hear about her classes in person. The call came 2 weeks before the holiday. "I can't make it home for Thanksgiving," Jennifer said, her voice distracted, as if she was multitasking during our conversation. "There's an intensive study group for organic chemistry over the break. If I want to get into the advanced research track next semester, I need to be here." "Oh," I said, trying to hide my disappointment. "Of course. Your studies come first." "What about Christmas?" "I'll let you know," she said vaguely. "I might apply for a winter session class." I spent Thanksgiving with a few friends from work, bringing a small turkey and trying not to think about Jennifer. The day after, I was scrolling through social media when I saw a post from Sophia. "So glad Jay could join us for Thanksgiving in Napa, annual Turner family tradition now complete." The photo showed Jennifer laughing with Sophia and her parents around a lavish table in what appeared to be a vineyard setting. She hadn't been studying. She had chosen to spend the holiday with the Turners instead. Christmas brought this same story, another excuse, another discovery through social media that she was with the Turners at their winter home in Colorado. I tried to rationalize her behavior. College was a time of independence. She was finding herself establishing her identity away from home. But the deliberate lies hurt more than a simple choice to spend holidays elsewhere would have. In the spring, I received an alumni magazine from Stanford featuring an article about undergraduate research. There, in a photo of a prestigious lab group, was Jennifer identified as having received a special internship usually reserved for graduate students. I called immediately, genuinely excited for her. Jennifer, I just saw the article about your internship. That's amazing. Why didn't you tell me? Oh, that, she said dismissively. It happened a while ago. I guess I forgot to mention it. This is huge, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. Tell me all about the research. She gave brief technical answers to my questions before claiming she had to go to class. Our entire conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. When Parents' Weekend was announced for April, I immediately requested time off work and booked flights expensive as they were at short notice. I emailed Jennifer with my arrival details 2 weeks in advance. 3 days before my scheduled departure, she texted, "Something came up with the lab, need to be there all weekend, sorry about Parents' Weekend." I sat staring at the text for a long time. The flight was non-refundable, and something in me decided that I would go anyway. I needed to see for myself what Jennifer's life had become. I checked into a hotel near campus and spent the first day wandering the beautiful grounds trying to imagine Jennifer walking these paths, studying in these buildings. I attended some of the Parents' Weekend events alone, smiling and making small talk with other parents who all seemed to be having wonderful reunions with their children. On Saturday afternoon, I was sitting on a bench near the science complex when I saw her. Jennifer was walking with a group of students laughing at something. She looked happy and confident. And then I noticed an older couple walking slightly behind the group, watching Jennifer with unmistakable pride. The woman reached out and touched Jennifer's arm, and Jennifer turned to her with a warm smile I'd not seen directed at me in years. I followed at a distance as they entered a campus restaurant. Through the window, I watched them interact, the easy affection between them obvious. After they finished their meal, I approached Jennifer as she was saying goodbye to the couple outside. The shock on her face when she saw me was quickly replaced by anger. "What are you doing here? I told you I was busy this weekend." "I had already booked the flight," I said quietly. "I just wanted to see you even briefly." The couple looked uncomfortable. The man stepped forward. "Jennifer, aren't you going to introduce us?" Jennifer's face flushed. "Dr. and Mrs. Patterson, this is Marion. My mother. Mom, these are Sophia's parents." I was confused. Sophia's parents. But I thought, "My colleagues from the research team are waiting." Jennifer interrupted. "We need to get back to the lab." "Perhaps your mother would like to join us for dinner tonight," Mrs. Patterson suggested kindly. "She's probably busy," Jennifer said quickly. "And anyway, we've already made plans." "Actually, I'm free all weekend," I said, looking directly at Jennifer. "I'd love to have dinner with you all." Jennifer glared at me. "Fine, 7 o'clock at La Strada. Now I really need to go." She hurried away with the Pattersons, leaving me standing alone. I returned to my hotel room and cried for the first time since arriving. Something was very wrong with this situation, and I needed to understand what. That evening at the restaurant, Jennifer was distant and tense. The Pattersons were polite but seemed confused by the obvious strain between us. Through careful conversation, I pieced together the truth. Jennifer had been presenting the Pattersons as her surrogate parents to everyone at Stanford. They had been taking her on trips, buying her clothes, treating her as part of their family. "We've grown so fond of Jennifer," Mrs. Patterson said warmly. "Sophia told us how much Jennifer needed family support with you being, well, so distant." I nearly choked on my water. "Distant." Jennifer explained how your work always came first. Dr. Patterson said with a hint of judgment, how you were rarely there for her important moments. I looked at Jennifer, who was studying her plate intently. "Is that what you've told people, that I wasn't there for you?" "You weren't there in the ways that mattered," she muttered. "We've been happy to provide Jennifer with the family experiences she missed out on." Mrs. Patterson continued, oblivious to the tension. The trip to our Napa home at Thanksgiving was particularly special. Yes, I saw the photos, I said quietly, while I was home cooking a turkey for a daughter who told me she was studying. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Eventually, I excused myself, unable to continue the charade. Jennifer followed me outside. "Why did you have to come?" she demanded. "You're embarrassing me in front of everyone." "Embarrassing you by existing. By being your actual mother who has sacrificed everything for you." My voice was rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "What have you been telling people, Jennifer?" She looked away. "Nothing that isn't true. You were always working, always too busy. I was working to support us, to save for your education, to give you opportunities. The Pattersons give me opportunities without making me feel guilty about it," she shot back. "They introduce me to the right people, take me to the right places. Do you know Dr. Patterson is on the board of the largest biotech firm in the country? Those connections are priceless." I felt suddenly exhausted. So this is all about what people can give you. What happened to the little girl who loved learning for its own sake? "I grew up, Mom. I realized how the world works. If you want to succeed, you need the right people in your corner." "And I'm not the right people," I said softly. She didn't deny it. "I need to get back inside. They're waiting." I returned to my hotel room and cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I changed my flight and left early, not attempting to see Jennifer again. She didn't contact me to see if I had arrived home safely. After that weekend, our already tenuous communication became even more strained. Jennifer rarely called. When she did, it was transactional, usually related to tuition payments or health insurance forms. I continued sending money, paying the bills, supporting her education. What else could I do? She was still my daughter, and I still loved her with a fierceness that overrode my hurt. The formal graduation invitation arrived in late April of Jennifer's senior year. Thick, cream-colored cardstock with gold embossing, it felt like a peace offering of sorts. Perhaps with her education nearly complete, Jennifer was ready to repair our relationship. I responded immediately with my attendance confirmation, then began planning. Despite my financial strain, I splurged on a new dress, a deep blue that a salesperson assured me was perfect for a spring graduation. I ordered a stunning arrangement of roses, remembering how Jennifer had loved yellow roses as a child. The flight to California felt like the beginning of a new chapter. I rehearsed what I might say to her, how I would express my pride without overwhelming her. I was determined to be whatever she needed me to be in order to rebuild our connection. My hotel was walking distance from campus, a small extravagance I justified as necessary for the special occasion. The morning of graduation dawned clear and beautiful, the California sunshine seeming like a good omen. I arrived at the ceremony site early, joining the stream of excited families finding seats. The prestigious biochemistry department had its own smaller ceremony following the main university graduation, and the audience was filled with well-dressed parents clutching flowers and cameras. I searched for a seat, feeling conspicuously alone amidst the family groups. Near the front, in a section reserved for special guests, I spotted them immediately. The Pattersons, along with Sophia and her older brother, were seated in prime viewing position. Mrs. Patterson was taking photos of the empty stage while Dr. Patterson consulted the program. Taking a deep breath, I found a seat several rows back, the bouquet of roses resting on my lap. The ceremony began with speeches from faculty and distinguished alumni, but I barely heard them. My eyes scanned the rows of black-robed graduates until I found her. Jennifer sat straight backed, her honor cords visible even from a distance. When they began calling names, I held my breath, waiting for hers. Jennifer Elizabeth Wright, summa cum laude, in biochemistry with departmental honors. The announcement of her Latin honors brought tears to my eyes. Despite everything, I felt overwhelming pride watching her confident walk across the stage, shaking hands with the department chair, accepting her diploma with grace. After the ceremony, graduates and families spilled onto the lawn for photos and celebrations. I stood clutching the roses, scanning the crowd for Jennifer. Finally, I spotted her taking photos with a group of classmates. I approached slowly, not wanting to interrupt. When she saw me, there was a moment of genuine surprise, followed quickly by something else. Annoyance, embarrassment. She excused herself from her friends and walked toward me. "You came," she said, her tone neutral. "Of course I did. I wouldn't miss this for the world. I held out the bouquet. Congratulations, Jennifer. I'm so incredibly proud of you. She took the flowers with a perfunctory thanks. We stood in awkward silence for a moment before I attempted conversation. The ceremony was lovely, and summa cum laude, that's amazing, Jennifer. She nodded, glancing over her shoulder as if looking for someone. The Pattersons are hosting a reception for me and a few classmates at their hotel. They're probably looking for me. I understand, I said, trying to hide my disappointment. But maybe we could have breakfast tomorrow before my flight. I'd love to hear about your plans. Something hardened in her expression then. Why are you doing this? Mom? Pretending everything is normal between us. Pretending you're so proud. I was taken aback. I'm not pretending anything. I am proud of you. Despite our difficulties, I have always been proud of you and supported you in every way I could. She let out a harsh laugh. Supported me by working all the time, by forcing me to grow up in that tiny house when Dad could have given me so much more if you'd just tried harder to make things work, by embarrassing me in front of my friends with your discount store clothes and your desperate neediness. Each word was a knife twisting deeper. Around us, other families were celebrating, hugging, taking photos. Our private drama was beginning to draw subtle attention. Jennifer, I don't understand where this is coming from. I gave you everything I possibly could. She clutched the diploma tighter and looked me directly in the eyes. You want to know the truth? When people ask if I'm proud you raised me, I tell them I spent my whole life wishing anyone else had. Just not you. The words hung in the air between us. I felt as if it'd been physically struck. Around us, nearby conversations faltered as people pretended not to listen to our confrontation. Without a word, I gently took the bouquet from her hands and placed it on the ground at her feet. Then I turned and walked away, back straight eyes forward, refusing to let anyone see me crumble. I made it back to my hotel room before the tears came. Violent, body-shaking sobs that felt torn from the deepest part of me. Years of sacrifice, of love, of trying to be both mother and father reduced to nothing in her eyes. Rejected so completely, so publicly. I lay on the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of Jennifer's childhood, searching for where I'd gone so terribly wrong. Had I worked too much? Not enough. Had I been too permissive? Too strict? The questions circled endlessly, finding no answers. Eventually, exhaustion overtook me and I fell into a restless sleep, still wearing my carefully chosen graduation outfit. When I woke hours later, my decision was clear. This public humiliation would not be the end of our story. One way or another, there would be a reckoning between Jennifer and me. Not out of vengeance, but out of a desperate need to understand, to find closure, and perhaps someday healing. The house felt emptier than ever when I returned from California. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching Jennifer's childhood belongings that still occupied shelves and drawers. Her science fair trophies, the stuffed elephant she had slept with until middle school. Photo albums chronicling birthdays, holidays, vacations, her smiling face alongside mine in happier times. I called in sick to work for a week, unable to muster the energy to shower dress or engage with colleagues. The depression that enveloped me was like a physical weight pressing me into the sofa where I spent hours staring blankly at unwatched television shows. My friend Sarah came by unannounced on the 5th day, using her emergency key when I didn't answer the door. She found me in the same pajamas I'd worn for 3 days, surrounded by empty takeout containers and used tissues. "Oh, Marion," she said, sitting beside me. "What happened?" The whole story poured out between sobs. Jennifer's cruel words at graduation, the years of growing distance, the Pattersons and their role as replacement parents, the financial sacrifices that had left me on the brink of bankruptcy. Sarah listened without interruption, holding my hand tightly. "You need help, Marion," she said finally. "Professional help to process all of this. What Jennifer has done to you is a form of emotional abuse, and you've been enduring it for years." "She's my daughter," I protested weakly. "I must have done something wrong for her to hate me so much." Sarah shook her head firmly. "No, I've known you both since Jennifer was in elementary school. You were a wonderful mother, Marion. Devoted, supportive, loving. Something else is going on here, and you need help understanding it so you can heal." The next day, Sarah drove me to an appointment she'd made with a therapist specializing in family trauma. Dr. Laura Fleming was a woman about my age with kind eyes and a direct manner that immediately put me at ease. "Tell me about your relationship with Jennifer," she said after preliminary introductions. "Start wherever feels most important." Over the next weeks, then months, I unpacked the history of our relationship with Dr. Fleming. She helped me recognize patterns I had been too close to see. How Jennifer had learned to manipulate me through my guilt over her father's absence. How her relationship with the Turners and later the Pattersons followed a pattern of idealization of replacement parent figures. "What you're describing," Dr. Fleming said during one particularly insightful session, "has elements of what we call narcissistic tendencies. Jennifer seems to view people primarily in terms of what they can provide for her status or advancement. When she was younger, you were her source of security and support. As she grew and her aspirations changed, she sought out people who could offer social status and professional connections." "But why the cruelty?" I asked. "Why not just move on to these new relationships without the lies and public humiliation?" "Sometimes people with these tendencies need to devalue their previous attachments to justify abandoning them. By casting you as inadequate as someone who failed her, she can rationalize her behavior to herself and others." The therapy sessions gave me a framework for understanding what had happened, but the pain remained. I began the slow process of rebuilding my life. I returned to work, though focusing remained difficult. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the years of working multiple jobs for Jennifer's education. One evening, scrolling through social media before bed, I saw a post that stopped my heart. Jennifer had shared professional photos from her graduation captioned, "So grateful to have made it on my own. From humble beginnings to Stanford grad through sheer determination. No silver spoons here." The comments were full of praise for her perseverance and questions about her background. In her replies, Jennifer crafted a narrative of having raised herself, of overcoming neglect and absence to achieve success through her own merits alone. "My birth mom wasn't really in the picture," she wrote in one comment, "but I found my real family in the amazing mentors who believed in me." I stared at the words, my hands shaking with anger and disbelief. She had effectively erased me from her life story, positioning herself as an orphan who had succeeded despite abandonment. The years of sacrifice, the second mortgage, the depleted retirement account, the constant support and encouragement, all dismissed as nothing. For the first time since the graduation ceremony, I felt something other than sadness. I felt rage, pure cleansing anger that burned away the fog of depression that had surrounded me. I called Dr. Fleming that night and left a message on her emergency line. She called back within the hour. "I'm furious," I told her, my voice shaking. "She's lying about me, about everything." "Anger is an appropriate response to being wronged," Dr. Fleming said calmly. "The question is, what do you want to do with that anger? I want her to acknowledge the truth. I want her to face what she's done. Then perhaps it's time to set some boundaries and stand up for your reality. Not out of vengeance, but out of self-respect and a need for truth." Over the next few weeks, I developed a plan with Dr. Fleming's guidance. I would confront Jennifer not to force reconciliation or demand an apology, but to assert my truth and establish clear boundaries moving forward. As part of my preparation, I gathered documentation of everything I had provided for Jennifer over the years: tuition payments, medical insurance, the second mortgage, the liquidated retirement account, the parent loans that were crushing me financially. Through a Stanford alumni newsletter, I learned that Jennifer had accepted a position at Princeton's prestigious molecular research facility. The announcement mentioned she would be joining Dr. Harrison's team working on breakthrough gene therapy techniques. I decided I would attend her first day at the new position. Not to embarrass her or cause a scene, but to have a private conversation where she couldn't easily dismiss me or walk away. Dr. Fleming and I role-played the conversation repeatedly, preparing for different scenarios and responses. "Remember," she said during our final session before my trip, "your goal isn't to punish Jennifer or force her to love you. It's to speak your truth and establish that you won't accept being erased or misrepresented." I reconnected with old college friends in the New Jersey area, building a support system for my visit. My friend Diana offered her guest room and a shoulder to lean on after the confrontation, whatever the outcome might be. I took a week's vacation from work, booking a flight to Newark with the last of my savings not tied up in debt payments. The night before my flight, I sat in Jennifer's childhood bedroom, touching the science books still lined on her shelves. the periodic table poster still hanging on her wall. I did my best, I whispered to the empty room. I really did. Princeton's Institute for Advanced Molecular Research was housed in a gleaming modern building on the edge of campus. I arrived early on Jennifer's first day, waiting in the lobby where new employees would check in. I had dressed carefully in a professional outfit that projected confidence, my hair freshly cut, my makeup subtle but polished. I recognized her the moment she walked through the doors. My daughter, now a poised young woman in a tailored suit, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She was accompanied by a small group of people, one of whom, an older gentleman with silver hair and glasses, seemed to be showing them around. Jennifer saw me at the same moment I saw her. The shock on her face was immediately followed by anger. She said something quickly to the group and broke away, striding toward me with barely contained fury. "What are you doing here?" she hissed when she reached me. "Are you stalking me now?" "I'd like to speak with you privately," I said calmly, just as I'd practiced with Dr. Fleming. "It won't take long." "This is my first day at a new job, an important job. You can't just show up here." 10 minutes, Jennifer. Then I'll leave and never come to your workplace again." She glanced back at the group, who were watching our interaction with curious expressions. "Fine, 10 minutes. There's a courtyard around the corner." We walked in tense silence to an empty seating area surrounded by carefully tended gardens. Jennifer remained standing, arms crossed defensively. "Make it quick. Dr. Harrison is giving us a tour of the facilities." I took a deep breath. "I saw your social media posts about graduation, about making it on your own, about your birth mother not being in the picture." Her face flushed slightly, but she raised her chin defiantly. "So, that's my story to tell how I want. Except it's not true. And it's not just your story, it's mine too." I opened my bag and removed a folder. "I've brought documentation of everything I've provided for you over the years. The second mortgage I took out to pay your tuition, the retirement account I liquidated, the parent loans that have left me nearly bankrupt." "You chose to do those things," she snapped. "I didn't ask you to bankrupt yourself." "You're right. I chose to make those sacrifices because I loved you and believed in you. I'm not asking for gratitude, Jennifer, but I won't be erased or lied about." "What do you want from me? Money? Is that what this is about?" The accusation stung, but I maintained my composure. "I don't want your money. I want you to stop publicly lying about your upbringing. You can distance yourself from me if that's what you need. You can choose not to have a relationship with me, but you don't get to rewrite history and make me a negligent parent when I gave you everything I had to give." Jennifer looked away, her jaw tight. "You don't understand what it's like. In my field with these people, coming from a single-parent home in a middle-class neighborhood doesn't exactly open doors. So you invented a more sympathetic backstory, one that makes your achievements seem even more impressive. At my expense." "It's not about you," she said dismissively. "It's about creating the narrative that serves my career best. Even if that narrative is a lie, even if it hurts someone who loves you." She sighed impatiently. "Look, what do you want me to say? That you were a perfect mother? That our life was ideal? It wasn't, Mom. You were always working, always stressed about money, always making me feel guilty about wanting the things other kids had." "I was working to support us," I said quietly. "To give you opportunities. And yes, maybe I made mistakes. Maybe I talked too much about financial struggles or worked too many hours. But I loved you, Jennifer. With everything I had, I loved you." Something flickered in her eyes, a momentary softening before the walls came back up. "Is that all I need to get back?" I gathered my dignity and stood, tucking the folder back into my bag. "That's all. I've said what I came to say. I wish you well in your career, Jennifer. I truly do. You're brilliant and capable, and you'll go far. And that success will be because of your abilities, not because of some fictional orphan backstory." I turned to leave, my heart heavy but my conscience clear. I had spoken my truth without cruelty or accusation. What Jennifer did with that truth was up to her. "Mom," her voice stopped me. I turned to see her looking uncertain for the first time. "The people I work with, my new boss, Dr. Harrison, they think You've told them I'm dead. I finished for her. Or might as well be. She didn't deny it. It would be awkward if they knew you were here. I studied my daughter's face, this person I had carried and nurtured and loved now, a stranger to me in many ways. I won't embarrass you, Jennifer. I'm not here to damage your career or relationships. I just needed you to hear the truth from me directly. What you do with it is your choice. I walked away, then head held high. I had made it to the lobby when I heard someone call out behind me. "Excuse me, ma'am." I turned to see the silver-haired man who had been with Jennifer's group, Dr. Harrison, presumably approaching with a warm smile. "I'm Dr. Harrison, director of the Institute. You must be Jennifer's mother. I saw you speaking with her in the courtyard." My heart raced as I tried to decide how to respond. Jennifer had clearly led this man to believe I was out of the picture. Revealing the truth might damage her standing on her very first day. "I'm Marion Wright," I said, simply extending my hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you. Jennifer is an exceptional young scientist. You must be very proud." "I am," I said honestly. "She's always been brilliant, from the time she was a little girl." He smiled warmly. "I have a daughter about Jennifer's age. We were estranged for several years, actually, a painful situation." He glanced toward the courtyard where Jennifer stood watching our interaction with visible anxiety. "But we found our way back to each other eventually. It took time and patience, but family bonds have a way of reasserting themselves when we least expect it." I wondered if he had overheard some of our conversation or if he was simply making polite small talk. Either way, his kindness was a balm to my raw emotions. "I hope you're right," I said softly. "Jennifer mentioned she would be dining alone tonight as she's still settling in. Perhaps you could join her? Our cafeteria serves excellent meals, and it might be a nice opportunity to see where she'll be working." Before I could respond, Jennifer approached, her face a careful mask. "Dr. Harrison, I see you've met my mother." The slight emphasis she placed on the word mother did not escape me. Whatever she had told people about her background, she was acknowledging our relationship now? "Indeed I have," he said cheerfully. "I was just suggesting you two might have dinner together this evening. I remember how much I appreciated having family visit when I started here years ago." Jennifer hesitated, caught between maintaining her fabricated narrative and the reality of my presence. "That would be nice," she finally said, not meeting my eyes. "Wonderful. Now we should rejoin the others for the remainder of the tour. Mrs. Wright, it was a pleasure meeting you." As Dr. Harrison walked away, Jennifer and I stood in uncomfortable silence. "You didn't tell him," she finally said, "about what I've been saying." "No," I confirmed. "As I said, I'm not here to damage your career or relationships." She nodded slightly. "The cafeteria closes at 8, if you want to come back then." It wasn't an enthusiastic invitation, but it was an opening, however small. "I'll be here," I promised. I spent the afternoon walking the beautiful Princeton campus, giving Jennifer space to process our confrontation and my unexpected presence in her professional life. I thought about Dr. Harrison's words regarding his own estrangement from his daughter and their eventual reconciliation. I didn't allow myself to hope for a similar outcome, but the possibility lingered like a tiny flame that refused to be extinguished. When I returned to the Institute that evening, Jennifer was waiting in the lobby. She led me silently to the cafeteria, a modern space with surprisingly appealing food options. We filled our trays and found a quiet table in the corner. "Your boss seems nice," I offered as an opening. "He's brilliant," Jennifer replied. "His work on gene therapy is revolutionary." We ate in silence for a few minutes before she spoke again. "He doesn't know anything about my background." "None of them do. I never actually said you were dead or anything specific. I just let people assume I don't have family support." I nodded, choosing my words carefully. "Jennifer, I didn't come here to force you to introduce me as your loving mother or to demand you change your narrative. I came because I needed to speak my truth directly to you, not through social media or third parties. And because despite everything, I still love you and wanted to see you embark on this new chapter of your life." She pushed her food around her plate. The things I said at graduation were cruel. I was showing off for the Pattersons, trying to prove I was fully committed to them as my chosen family. It wasn't an apology, but it was an acknowledgement. And the social media post claiming you made it on your own, she had the grace to look slightly ashamed. People love a good overcomer story. It gets more attention, more support. But it's not true, Jennifer. You didn't make it on your own. You had me. Imperfect as I was, working multiple jobs, stressed about money, not as polished as the Pattersons, I was there. I helped you make it. She was quiet for a long moment. I know, she finally said so softly I almost didn't hear it. I know you were there. It wasn't the emotional reconciliation scene from a movie. There were no tears or dramatic hugs. But it was a tiny crack in the wall between us, a small acknowledgement of reality rather than the fiction she had constructed. I'm not asking you to change your life or include me in it if that's not what you want, I said. But I am asking you to stop publicly claiming neglect or abandonment. You can simply not mention me at all if that's easier. Jennifer nodded slightly. I can do that. Before leaving, I gave her a business card with my contact information. If you ever want to talk or if you need anything, no pressure, no expectations. Okay, she said, taking the card. Thank you for coming today and for not exposing me to Dr. Harrison. I would never deliberately hurt you, Jennifer. I hope someday you'll understand that. We parted with an awkward half hug, but it was more physical contact than we'd had in years. I returned to Diana's house feeling emotionally drained but strangely peaceful. I had done what I came to do. I had spoken my truth and maintained my dignity. The rest was up to Jennifer. 6 months passed with no contact. I focused on rebuilding my life, working with a financial advisor to manage the crushing debt from Jennifer's education. I continued therapy with Dr. Fleming, processing the complex grief of having a living child who had chosen estrangement. I made new friends through a support group for parents in similar situations. I even started dating again, having coffee with a kind English professor Diana had introduced me to. Then 3 days before Christmas, a text message appeared on my phone. Will you be home for the holidays? Might be in Chicago for a conference. Would like to meet if possible. My heart raced as I read Jennifer's message several times. I responded simply, yes, I'll be home. You're welcome anytime. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop, halfway between my house and her conference hotel. When I arrived, Jennifer was already there, looking nervous but composed in a casual sweater and jeans, so different from the polished professional I had seen at Princeton. Thank you for meeting me, she said as I sat down across from her. Of course. How have you been? How's the new position? Good. Challenging but good. Dr. Harrison is an excellent mentor. We exchanged pleasantries about her work and my life for a while, carefully navigating around the deeper issues between us. Finally, Jennifer took a deep breath. I've been doing some thinking since your visit to Princeton, and some therapy, actually. Dr. Harrison suggested it as part of the Institute's wellness program. That's wonderful, I said cautiously. Therapy has been very helpful for me, too. She nodded. My therapist has helped me see some patterns in my behavior. The way I idealized the Turners and Pattersons while devaluing you. The way I've used people based on what they could offer me. She looked down at her coffee. She says I have narcissistic tendencies. Not full-blown NPD, but enough to damage relationships. I was stunned by her self-awareness and vulnerability. That must have been difficult to hear. It is. She looked up at me. But it explains a lot. Why I was so cruel to you. Why I invented stories about being neglected. Why I kept seeking perfect replacement families. Jennifer, I wasn't a perfect mother. I made mistakes. I worked too much sometimes. I talked about money worries when I should have protected you from them. If I contributed to any of this, I'm truly sorry. She shook her head. My therapist says it probably would have happened regardless. Something about my temperament combined with Dad leaving. I created a narrative that you were to blame for his absence, that if you had been different, better, somehow he would have stayed. It wasn't fair or rational, but it became my reality. We talked for hours that afternoon, more honestly than we had in years. Jennifer shared that Sophia's perfect family had imploded in a bitter divorce with allegations of infidelity and financial misconduct. Watching her idealized substitute family fall apart had shaken her worldview. I realized that perfect families don't exist, she admitted, and that I'd thrown away a good, loving mother chasing an illusion. It wasn't an instant healing. We both acknowledged that rebuilding trust would take time, but it was a beginning, a first tentative step towards something new between us. Over the next year, we established a cautious relationship, monthly phone calls, occasional visits when work brought Jennifer to Chicago. I maintained firm boundaries, refusing to tolerate dismissive or cruel comments, which happened less frequently as time passed. The milestone came when Jennifer invited me to her apartment for dinner, a small but significant gesture of including me in her private space. As we shared a meal she had prepared, I felt a glimmer of the connection we had once shared. "I'm not the same person I was during those years," she said as we cleared the dishes together. "The therapy, the self-reflection, it's changed me. I don't expect you to forget everything that happened, but I hope you can see that I'm trying to be better." "I can see it," I assured her. "And I'm not the same either. I've learned to value myself more, to recognize my worth beyond being your mother. We're both growing. Our relationship will never be the perfect mother-daughter bond I once dreamed of. There is too much history, too much hurt on both sides. But we have found a way forward, a relationship based on mutual respect rather than obligation or idealization. The greatest lesson I've learned through this painful journey is that self-respect must come first, even in parent-child relationships. By standing up for my truth and refusing to accept erasure or cruelty, I ultimately created the possibility for authentic connection. Real love can't exist without honesty and boundaries. Jennifer's betrayal at graduation wasn't the end of our story, as I had sworn it wouldn't be. But neither was it the beginning of a fairy tale reconciliation. It was simply one painful chapter in the complex ongoing narrative of two imperfect people trying to find their way back to each other, carrying their wounds but choosing day by day to heal. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you love deeply? How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself while leaving the door open for healing? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that standing in your truth doesn't mean closing the door on reconciliation. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the most profound healing begins when we refuse to let betrayal have the final word.